An interesting study by the ACLU and a whole bunch more tonight. Welcome in to My State of Mind. I am Dan York. Good Friday evening to you. A little bit of melt today. You know, I'm redundant every day on the radio at WPRO from noon to 3. I give my melting feelings, and I'm just trying to commiserate with you. There will be a spring. In fact, Bill, who runs the plow and the entire operation around here, told me he took the plow off the truck today. So that's right, Kev? Oh, no. We got 4 to 8 coming tonight, even though there's no forecast for it. You never take the plow off the truck too early. Anyway, it's great to have you in. I got a lot on our minds here tonight. The folks at the ACLU are constantly telling us about all sorts of things that we need to be thinking about. And Hillary Davis is with us. She's a very articulate person and has some research that is at least something for us to sit back and listen to. Oh, Nick Mattiello, concept, research, sit back and listen to. Follow my train of thought. To the rundown we go. You'll understand. The governor last night, big themes, but we're going to be 2 weeks on that speech because there's a lot in it. The Speaker of the House has just a bad attitude. He does. He has a bad attitude, and he right now is he's in a place that's not going to help this state, and he deserves a thrashing from you, not just me. The concept of a $5,000 reward. Just wanted to put a weird thought in your head over that. What else do we have on the rundown tonight? Yeah, big high school weekend in Kingston. It's their own form of March Madness, and speaking of it, both teams trying to get to it. One is in, one is trying, and your state of mind. All right, let's dig into item number 1. How can you ignore the first State of the State House budget or state budget address that really wasn't called the State of the State, but it had all the pomp and circumstance? I mean, would judges come to watch a budget meeting? No, I mean, right? So it's a whole big to-do. Many of you who would watch a show like this probably watched Gina Raimondo last night. Headline, of course, appropriate for it, jumpstart for economy. And, you know, it's all the lingo. I mean, she wins on concepts and she wins on lingo. And, of course, it's about jobs, 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 cut number 1.
Tonight I propose a comprehensive jobs plan that will operate in waves, with the first wave being the most robust to kickstart our effort. We can't just sit back and expect jobs to appear.
You know, there are big waves and there are little waves. And she's saying the first big wave kickstarts. Look, you take a comprehensive look at this package. She is nibbling from the corners. They may be good nibbles. I'm still looking for the systemic thing that we can put up on a sign that says, hey, we're ready for business now. And that's not in here. Just know it. It's not in here. Are there a lot of cool discussion items? Sure. But there's taxation, there's slippery slope taxation, there's a few cuts. The truth of the matter is she told you she wouldn't get any cuts during the campaign. Now she's got cuts because all of a sudden she's telling you that there's a difference between campaigning and governing. But she touched on an issue which is really centered to our success, but barely grazed it.
We have to reinvigorate state government with fresh ideas and new ways of doing things in order to get better results for the people of Rhode Island. And this begins with honest and ethical government that the people of Rhode Island deserve.
And she said nothing else. There was nothing to follow. I was thinking, okay, let's go. What's your plan? I support the Ethics Commission. Did you see John Marion here last night? If you missed it, go to foxprovidence.com. She should have all she could have said is what he said on Dan York last night. Nothing. Actions speak a lot louder than words, Governor. And a $5,000 pay cut or 5%, whatever it is, so token, but the Senate President loved it.
I believe that she is demonstrating that we all need to come to the table and work hard, and she is asking people to make sacrifices and has demonstrated leadership in a very symbolic but important way by making that statement.
Oh boy, you know, when independently wealthy elected officials cut their pay by 5%, sorry if I don't go, holy cow, I'm moved. Please. You know, and anybody that argues you should cut your own pay when she's making adjustments to state salaries, I think is small-minded. The truth of the matter is that we need to pay the governor more money, not her, but the position. You know why? Because people who are really brilliant but who don't have independent wealth might actually want to take on a job like that and shouldn't have to have the consistent pressure of token symbolic pay cuts, which mean nothing against the budget. And then, of course, Nick Mattiello, who just kind of says nothing about everything.
There's a lot of cuts. There's some revenue enhancements, no broad-based tax cuts. So I think the overall balance is good, even though some of the decisions within that balance, whether they're on the revenue side or the cut side, is something that none of us want to consider.
Well, whatever. Unless he's dumping on somebody that might cross his leadership toes. This is embarrassing. You have to hear what happened today. Do you remember Ken Block with watchdogri.org issued this report on firefighting expense? We have a headline from earlier in the week. Oh, sorry, speaker's bad attitude. Kev, I'm way ahead of you, dude. You are. I am running past you. Doing a good job, though. Nonprofit says Rhode Island should consolidate. Blah, blah, blah. So you saw this, right? This, we have a $315 per capita cost as constituents for fire versus other like communities across the country that $225, $175. There's hundreds of millions of dollars at stake here. Here's what Ken Block said on the radio with me earlier this week about it.
The reality is that we can't afford to be 40% more expensive than so many other places in the country to provide the same service. That's really what this is all about. And by the way, what we're not specifically talking about here is manning necessarily. You need to start with just identifying what it is that you need in terms of where do those stations need to be and how much gear do you need, and then that begins to drive what the manning needs to be.
This just gives you a little flavor of what we were talking about. So Speaker Mattiello, who you just saw there, was on with Gene Valicenti on the WPR Morning News this morning, and listen to this myopic, terrible message.
But I will caution folks, as you read Ken Block's report, understand that it's probably looking at one side of the issue and it's not considering a lot of other factors. And whenever you get these reports, I find that's the case, and you have to look at things very comprehensively. So yes, we have to find a way to provide every service more efficiently, but you have to be comprehensive in the analysis. And I suspect that I suspect the report is one-sided because it's probably written with some type of an agenda.
Oh, that is disgraceful. Nick Mattiello, come on, are you serious, pal? You used to have a little bit of that skip in your step and a wide open perspective and a little bit of, energy for ideas. Now you're the speaker and you want people to kiss your ring and people have agendas. What it was when he didn't ask you for permission to issue the report, is that what the problem is? That is as myopic as it comes. What is the message to, forget Ken Block, what's the message to the next crew? By the way, when the ACLU comes out with something interesting and provocative and may have a perspective along with their data, do you talk about their agenda? No, you don't. There are a lot of groups out there that are protected, and you don't talk about their agenda. But somebody new comes along, oh, he's run for office before. So what? Data is data. And all you have to do is say, you know what, interesting, worth a conversation, and we love it when people are invited to the table or invite themselves to the table to have a discussion about what's good for us all across the board. That's what magnanimous leadership is about. Instead, he sounds like a two-bit you-know-what out of Cranston that's just all about, hey, it's awful. Nick Mattiello in the doghouse on the Dan York Show. Next item. Oh, it's just awful. It's not about Block. Oh, $5,000 reward. So you remember back on February 15th, the Islamic school got hit with this terrible vandalism. There was a headline that came here. We got that, and there's a picture of the guy that's yet been identified. We got a little bit of video on this to show you, I guess, and just to remind you of some of the graffiti and all that kind of stuff. It's just terrible, awful. Well, today, an FBI agent was on the WPRO News and talked about a $5,000 reward and why.
Just really hope that the public can help us out on this so that, again, the kids going to this school can feel safe, just like children of any other public school can feel safe going to school.
Well, I understand, but I was thinking, I have no answer to this. Isn't it kind of weird and strange and awful, the culture of reward that every once in a while we're faced with? So nobody wants to do the right thing to turn this guy in for nothing. But if there's $5,000 under your nose, some loser is going to turn up the loser. Right? Oh, I wouldn't do that. Oh, there's 5,000? I know who he is. Gives the creeps, doesn't it? Turn the guy in regardless of the check, if you know who he is. All right, big weekend in Kingston. Rewards are weird. I keep going backwards, just to drive Kev crazy. Great piece by Jungaluli in the Journal today. Girls and boys with an equitable state tournament. In other words, both of them are being run the same way. And so, you know, it'll be Mount Pleasant and LaSalle, North Kingstown and Barrington on the boys' side. It'll be Juanita Sanchez, LaSalle, Bayview, and who's the other? I can't even read my writing. Who's the other team? No, on the girls' side. I had it here. Whatever, I'll get it at the end. It's been a long week. But it's nice to have both. And by the way, the boys' semifinals are on WPRO on the radio, and the girls' finals and the boys' finals will be on WPRO. But it's nice to have real kind of March Madness with the Credit Union State Championships. And then there's the March Madness that the big guys are looking for. PC is in, certainly with that win last night over St. John's. They're probably playing as we speak. Wait till the end of the show to watch. And then URI has got a 9 o'clocker, and you hope that they both win in advance. URI's got to win the 8-10 tournament to go to the show, they say. I don't think that's right. Alrighty, we're a little behind, so when we get back, we're going to do the ACLU's research and talk about their perspective on an important matter. Stay with us. And as I said earlier, when there's data, there should be conversation. And here's some data that the ACLU recently brought to our attention. And when I said, hey, let's get those folks in, and of course, Hillary is always responsive. ACLU charges Rhode Island discriminates against blacks. Whew, that's, was that headline welcome, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thanks for coming. Was that headline representative of what you're trying to say?
Well,
was it too broad?
It was a little louder than I think we were going for. What we're talking about here is something called the school to prison pipeline. And this isn't only
Say that slowly.
school to prison pipeline.
School to prison pipeline.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is not just a Rhode Island issue, this is a nationwide issue. And what you see is you have kids who are suspended. They then become part of the juvenile justice system. Then you go out and you have black kids who are arrested. You have black adults who are arrested. And then you have this huge black population in the ACI. So what we see is this sort of lifetime pattern of racial disparities that hit again and again and again that really results in two different experiences in Rhode Island depending on your skin color.
Okay, so Kev, let's just put up some charts, and I'm going to have Hillary walk us through them because data matters. The Speaker of the House should understand data matters. Average suspension rate disparity. Walk me through.
So this is demonstrating to us the difference between the suspension rates of black, Hispanic, and white youth in elementary schools and in high schools. And you can see the huge racial disparity that starts in elementary school. A black elementary school student is actually 6 times more likely than a white elementary school student to be suspended from school. And that's across the board. That we have a suspension problem in Rhode Island. Generally, our kids are over-suspended. They're suspended for very minor offenses, but it is predominantly the black youth who are affected by these suspensions.
Well, before we go to the next one, why do you think it's more prevalent in elementary?
It's an interesting question, and we're not really sure.
I'm actually surprised by that because the
so
cuter the kid, white, black, orange, or whatever, generally the more the grammar elementary educator is coddling.
We
and
were
trying
also
to fix.
surprised that there were so many suspensions in elementary school. There were actually 175 first graders who were suspended last year, which is really
in total
concerning.
or black?
In total.
Okay.
Which is really sort of concerning. What does a first grader do that is so big that it necessitates them being pushed out of school? We're really not sure what that's about.
Okay. The second item here, percent of discretionary searches resulting in contraband.
Sure. So black and Hispanic drivers are more likely to be pulled over by police. They're more likely to be searched by police, the discretionary searches. It's not incident to arrest. the police just want to search them for whatever reason, they're actually less likely to be found with contraband when they're searched. So it really calls into question why these stops and searches are happening to begin with. They're also less likely to be ticketed, which I find interesting. So you have Black and Hispanic drivers who are predominantly pulled over, they're predominantly searched, they're less likely to have anything on them when they're searched, and they're less likely to end up with a ticket. You know, we've heard about racial profiling allegations for a long time, and this is just sort of an
but they're less likely to end up with a ticket. So what you're saying is that an officer is more inclined to pull over a black citizen, but once they find nothing, they're not whacking them with a ticket.
So why are they being pulled over to begin with?
Well, I mean, they're at least you got half the stories okay, that they're not legitimizing falsely the reason for the pullover.
It's always great when nobody is falsely penalized for something they haven't done, but being pulled over in the first place is a little bit of a problem, especially if it happens multiple times
I think that's,
in your lifetime.
That's interesting. Okay, next item that we have there.
And then this is an interesting one. One of the allegations we always hear is, well, maybe it's just that black people commit more crimes. And this is just something that indicates that's patently false. We know from research that white and black individuals nationwide use marijuana at roughly the same rates. But what this is showing is the arrest rates of black Rhode Islanders to white Rhode Islanders. The black Rhode Islanders are 2.5 times more likely than white Rhode Islanders to be arrested for marijuana possession and use. If people were being arrested based on their use rates, those numbers would be relatively equal, and they're not. They're completely out of whack. So now we've seen this pattern of black individuals being singled out and treated differently time and time again. It really just raises a lot of questions as to what exactly is going on.
Okay, that's not right.
No, it's not right. It's really not right.
I mean, I always kid that the ACLU and I have like a 300 batting average, which means 3 out of 10.
Yeah.
But in baseball, 300 batting average is pretty good.
Yeah.
And maybe in politics or in policy, it's not so good. But I think anybody that looks at that data has to say, well, got to fix that.
Yeah, we should all be very concerned with it for a lot of reasons. The racial disparities are one thing, but it also is just, it really is raising questions as to what are we doing? What are we focusing on? If law enforcement is pulling people over who have done nothing wrong, who are they missing? How effective is our policing that we are arresting black individuals for marijuana and we are ignoring the white individuals who are using marijuana?
Now, have you had dialogue with law enforcement about your data?
Yeah, we've had dialogue with law enforcement about all this data for a long time. The traffic stops data goes back 10 years. And we always sort of get a, well, maybe that doesn't say what you think it says. You know, there are things to be considered. We're doing good policing. And nobody wants to tie the hands of law enforcement. We want to make sure everybody is safe. But this has come up time and time again for a decade.
I think one of the pullover stuff, I bet you gang violence has a lot to do with it. And, if you have racially identifiable gangs, whether they be Hispanic or African American, I can see why the propensity would be.
If those searches were then being effective, but these people are being searched and they're not finding drugs, they're not finding weapons, they're spending the time searching innocent people and ignoring something else that is really going on somewhere else.
All right, so what do you want to see happen from this report?
Well, there's a few things we'd like to see happen. First and foremost, I think it's just time for our leaders to really take this information seriously. Nothing that's in our report is new. All we did was compile a series of data that has existed in Rhode Island for quite some time and show it in a graphic format.
It's uncomfortable data.
It is uncomfortable data. It should be uncomfortable. But now we need to address it, and we need to really think about what to do moving forward.
Well, I hope that this data is embraced and creates more constructive conversation. This racial challenge that we have with law enforcement and minority communities is something that white America has got to be open to. And listen, Ferguson, Staten Island aside, the big picture, I think everyone wants a fairer society.
Well, and what Ferguson and Staten Island showed is if you ignore these issues for too long, they become something very, very large. We have the opportunity to solve these issues
and they get,
now.
And by the way, those situations get perverted.
Right, right. They become this huge thing. We have an opportunity to fix a problem now before we're Ferguson, before we're Staten Island.
All right. I'll have to have somebody from law enforcement on with you to talk more about this. When we come back, though, there's another study that It's like, oh, come on, man, stay with us. So I tell you, with the ACLU, sometimes it's 3 out of 10 with me. I'll have to do a new accounting because lately they've been doing pretty good. But this gender thing, we have a headline. Thank you. Okay. So the PTOs and the PTAs are inadvertently creating gender stereotypes. Your argument is what?
Our argument is that let's be real about what we're looking at. We look at all these extracurricular activities. For the girls, 80% of the time it's dances. Boys are getting science, they're getting magic shows, they're getting sporting events, and girls are uniformly getting pretty little dances. And that just raises a lot of concerns about what are we teaching our children that they have to be. We're teaching our girls they have to sit and look pretty. We're teaching our boys they get to learn science and math and all fun things. What we're saying is everybody should be invited to both events. That's all.
And I think they are.
They're not.
Well, listen.
They're ladies' choice and boys' choice. And they have made it very clear that the girls are to go to one thing and the boys are to go to the other. If you want to have these extracurricular events, I have no problem with the dance, with the family dances. Schools have family dances. They're great. Everybody loves them. It's the segregation that we have.
So you don't like the father-daughter dance thing?
The father-daughter dance, if everybody can come, not a problem.
Oh, come on. See, this is... I'm all for, hey, can I come to the ball game because Janie wants to come to the ball game? Of course she should. You always say no. But aren't we losing a little bit of what's special? You as a female, me as a male. There are some things that are still different between us that ought to be culturally acceptable and not such a pressure cooker conversation.
But shouldn't we let our children decide who they are as opposed to telling them who they are?
Yeah, you're a girl. Well, you know what? I don't think they have to be
told. If I'm a girl, that doesn't mean I want to sit and look pretty. There was a time in life when I wouldn't be able to sit on this show with you because I was a woman and wouldn't be able to express my opinion. But that's what we're talking about here. These are outdated stereotypes that we are perpetuating against kids. Little kids, first, second, third grade.
As long as you don't bring the limo and overdo it with the father-daughter dance. I have fond memories from those days. Don't mess around with my father-daughter dances.
Just make sure that the sons can come too.
All right. It's always good to see you.
You too.
All right. One more thing. I got to make a correction when we come back. You know, I should have Hillary back on that whole gender thing. I understand. We want women to be empowered from the get-go. I get all of that. But there's fond memories of, dads and daughters. Although I will tell you, those events could get crazy too. You know, the knucklehead dads that bring their little girls, 8 years old, in a limousine as if they're dating them make me kind of puke, to be honest with you, because it's a terrible, terrible message and, all of that. Anyway, you've got a thought on it, give me a ring at 228-1886. Your state of mind is important. You email, you tweet, you Facebook post. So that's that. I have to do a clarification, though. So I go into the gym today, which is the Health Tracks gym, which is around the corner, one of the very many gyms I belong to. You're pretty fat, Dan, to belong to a lot of gyms. Well, let me tell you something. If I didn't, I wouldn't even get in the screen. But anyway, I walk in, and Peter says, you told a story about us the other day, and you call this New England Health and Racket. I was saying it was so warm that a girl was running outside the health club with shorts and a T-shirt, and it was so nice against the snow. And he said, Dan, we haven't been New England Health and Racket in 20 years. Peter, I apologize. You're Health Tracks to me. It's like I'm a true Rhode Islander. I don't know the names of anything anymore. The used to be's, where it used to be, whatever. All right, go PC, go URI. And Don Grebian, the mayor of Pawtucket, will be here Monday night. You have a great weekend. Thanks so much for watching My State of Mind.